And, a blog post is like the smallest amount of work that's also a meaningful impact on people, right? Like a tweet doesn't quite change lives in the way that a 1,500 word essay can. And
Hi, everyone. This is Alistair, and welcome to the Venture Variety Show. This podcast is where I talk with founders, investors, platform folks, and others who are shaping how startups and the stories around them get built. Today's guest is Tony Stubblebine. Tony is the CEO of Medium, and he and I get into a topic that I really love. We discuss why storytelling still matters, especially for entrepreneurs. Tony's got strong views on how to stand out and why writing is underrated. Tony and I also discuss what makes platforms like Medium different, especially in a world flooded with AI-generated content. So all right, let's get into it and meet Tony.
I'm good. I'm so good today.
I'm happy to hear that. Well, thanks for joining the show. Let's start off with some basics. Can you tell us briefly, who you are and what you do and how you came to lead the site Medium?
I think I'm here probably because I'm the second CEO of Medium, which is just a simple place to publish online. We try to be simple tools and, more importantly, a simple way to reach an audience. But I've been in startups for a long time. I think my story kind of involved backing my way into entrepreneurship. I graduated with a computer science degree. I am a programmer. I think of myself as a programmer, even though no one ever lets me touch code. But I've even written a programming book for O'Reilly back in the day. Right before starting my own companies, I'd been at Odeo, which is a podcasting startup. I was the head of engineering there. I helped us launch Twitter. I'm Jack Dorsey's probably the last boss he'll ever have. He thought the experience was so distasteful that he's never allowed himself to have a boss again. But then after that, I started a company. I bootstrapped it. We might talk about that. I really think for entrepreneurs, there's this incredible virtue in bootstrapping a company so that you actually know what a business is. Because to start a company with venture capital, you only see part of it. You don't see what it means to make payroll happen. A lot of startups don't even make money, right? So I feel like I'm on a different wavelength sometimes in Silicon Valley there. And along the way, I just ended up being an advisor and a partner to Medium, in part because Medium's founder was one of my investors. He was my boss at Odeo. And just had known them for a long time, and then just got more and more involved with them at a kind of a business level. And then eventually, when Ev wanted to step down as CEO of Medium, I was able to figure that out early and make a pitch to take over myself. And for the last 2+ years, have been running it with, again, one of the goals to make it profitable. And we've been profitable since August. That's not all I want to do with Medium, but I just think that is the baseline for entrepreneurship. So you have to make a real business. So we've been able to do that. And that's my bio, we'll say.
Well, it's an impressive run, and I'm happy to talk about entrepreneurs and the advice they should hear. I was drawing a comparison to Medium and blogging and self-publishing and what drives Medium and blogging over the last couple plus decades.
Yeah, I think that writing is one of the most accessible ways to create something that other people use. And so, my introduction to creating things for other people was coding, and that is very fulfilling to put software in the hands of other people and watch them use it. But it's also a lot of work. And, a blog post kind of takes that, is like the smallest amount of work that's also a meaningful impact on people, right? Like a tweet doesn't quite change lives in the way that a 1,500 word essay can. And so I feel a ton of similarity. My motivation is very same when I write, very similar when I write, that I'm hoping that I have some impact on the world. There's two ways to kind of perceive the word powerful, right? It's like power over other people. I just feel powerful in that I can make an impact on people's lives. It blows my mind. And as a writer, that's the feeling I'm going for. I think that's what is so like drives so many people to share their experiences online. It's like, hey, I know something and I might get validated by other people that didn't know that yet. It's generosity, but it's just also so fulfilling. And then along the way, I think you end up, I don't know. Well, I'm curious, do you like writing? Like, do you like when you're writing, are you having fun or are you not having fun? Because I've like people will often feel very different about that.
I personally am having fun, and I've used that word powerful to describe the
Yeah.
feeling I get from reporting and writing. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say usually I'm having fun. If I'm on deadline, I'm often not having fun because the pressure is too much. But blog is it's at your own pace, right? And it's an opportunity to go into a flow state and like articulate your own thoughts. And like I think a couple of hours of wrestling with an idea and trying to get it into words is like probably one of the happiest periods I can have in a day or a week.
It is a great feeling. Having been a journalist for so long, I wasn't anticipating this shared feeling of yes,
Yeah.
I do feel the same way about writing and reporting. But what should for the entrepreneurial crowd, what should entrepreneurs, operators, investors, whoever's out there, what should they know about writing? I mean, should they be using Medium or writing in general as a way to build themselves up, build up their brand, build up their company? Why is writing important for when you're running a company?
Yeah, I'll give the pitch for writing, and then of course I have to give a little bit of a pitch for why Medium's could be
You
the
have
best
to.
place.
Of course.
So much of entrepreneurship is like finding a hack to jump the line, right? There's bigger companies than you, and you have to find some way to jump ahead. And I think that writing has always been, just for all professionals, a
Mhm.
way to jump the line. Maybe your resume doesn't support how good you are or where you should kind of land in the hierarchy of the world. But writing gives you an opportunity to clarify your thoughts, to research something, and then to demonstrate that you're really smart. So it's not just that the entrepreneurs should be writing. It's like the VP of engineering at your company should be writing. The head of design should be writing. And that's how you a punch above your weight. For Medium, like we really explicitly designed our platform to work for people that want to share experiences, which is what we're talking about here, and don't have the time to build an audience first. So the whole Medium network is geared to finding the best stories that have the most substance, that have the most sort of real like expertise and insight behind them, and finding an audience for them. That is our whole purpose. And Medium, my predecessor, had kind of changed our business model at one point to move away from an ad network because he thought that's why you get attention seeking. And we're not looking for attention seeking. We're looking for, real substantial takes on, every topic. Certainly entrepreneurship is one of the big ones. And what that means is that you're a busy CEO, you don't have to go hustle. You don't have to be an internet hustler in order to be heard. Like Medium will help you be heard.
Can you give us a quick snapshot on Medium? How big is it now?
Sure. Well, I mean, just to give background, we went through a pretty significant turnaround. That was the
Mhm.
first part of my job.
Right.
Get the finances in order, change the nature of our distribution. And so at this point, we're 75 people, down from 250. We're a little north of $50 million a year as a business. And as I said, lightly profitable, like consistently profitable every month, but not, like dripping in money. Yeah.
And how many people are using Medium?
It's usually about 200 million people a month.
Mhm. What's been written and said about kind of uh, the work that's been done in the last couple of years, and it coincides with what we see with more use of AI in writing with Gen AI and and a lot of Medium writers and Medium itself has addressed that. I'm curious about consuming in the era of AI. I could take a 1,500-word essay and just have Gen AI read it and give me a sentence summary, or there's other ways to use AI to summarize. Are you seeing a change in how people read?
I think I might give the answer that you're going to be happy to hear.
Okay.
There's like two trains of thoughts in Silicon Valley. One is college is useless, and the other is
Right.
I wish you went to a liberal arts school. Well, I went to a
Right.
liberal arts school, right? And so I just look at this almost like through the through a historical context. Like, have we already seen this pattern? Because everyone right now is like, this is brand new. We've never faced this before. All the time, I'm looking at AI summarization and thinking not just that it hallucinates and is wrong, but it's actually there's something fundamentally flawed with summarization. And we already saw the result of that debate when Cliff Notes launched, right? Did Cliff Notes mean you don't have to read a book? No. In fact, they like it 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 has a use case, but it never replaced the book because for a lot of stories, the book is the most efficient delivery mechanism because we're not reading to memorize a bullet list of facts. We're reading to be transformed in some way, and our brains work with context, they work with emotion. Your brain has to go on the journey in order to change. And so the summary doesn't take you on the journey, and so therefore is not really that effective. So this whole like AI summarization world, to me, does nothing for what I think the kind of our target reader is, which is someone that just fundamentally believes their life is going to be better if they're smarter. And so the question I'm always asking as a reader is, what is the most powerful way to be smarter? And I still think that that story is the most effective way. It cannot be condensed beyond where it is. A blog post condenses it by just focusing what you're talking about. Maybe it's a story about just a single concept where a book will be a related set of concepts. But I don't get a lot of value out of seeing it summarized beyond that. So yes, there is a lot more people reading summaries, but it hasn't changed, the need or the hunger to core reader, which is, I think, just someone who's got more ambition than a summary can satisfy.
It's
Text
fascinating.
still matters, writing still matters, right? Like
Right.
there's so much fear out there right now. And
Hmm.
I'm not buying into it. Like, I like being human. I think humans still have, like if I could flag it like this, it's like, there's been no change in what it means to be human. We're still curious and we're still interested in connecting with each other. Like, AI is not changing that. Those are basic human needs. And writing for each other is still one of the great ways to kind of connect by sharing wisdom with each other.
Well put. I do like that answer. And I'd be remiss if on the topic of reading, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out we have competing bookshelves behind us. So anything you're reading that you want to share?
I mean, this is like we read a lot of business strategy, and I
Mhm.
would just say there's this one overlapping book and medium author, Roger Martin, his book Play to Win, that is one that just comes up even at the medium board level.
Really?
And, like kind of maybe a simple way to look at it is if if you think that Medium is in competition with other writing platforms right now, like someone in your audience, that'd be a reasonable thing. And I think I know which platforms that someone would guess. We actually internally think we're not because we're not intending to be, because we're looking to play in a space that's not really being competed for right now. Like, a lot of people are competing for the creator economy, but I think my job is to make amateur writing cool again, which is what got me into blogging in the first place. Like, for me, publishing online is an opportunity to give everyone a voice, not just people that want to quit their day job, like, and to be a full-time creator. That's such a niche
Mhm.
life goal, even though like for some people it's really exciting. That's a niche. There's this whole bigger market that somehow the internet forgot about them, of just people who really like documenting their life and sharing it. And sometimes it plays a professional goal, like, or plays a professional role, like we were talking about. How can a entrepreneur promote their company? But a lot of times it's just like a basic human need to connect that way.
I was thinking of this earlier too, is, what's the best way to own your own voice, whether, we're talking about Medium or just in general, any kind of founder or business person out there? Is it, Do you have to specialize to stand out on Medium and in general? Or I guess my question is what makes someone different and stand out?
Be real. Like there's not enough people being real. And so I think the idea of like niching down, I think it's what you're getting at, I think comes
Hmm.
from the marketing concept of category design, which is like a concept I really like.
Mm.
But when you teach category design, like one of the ways you can teach it is to be really accessible. Like, because it's like, oh, if I like, you know, what would it take to be the number one entrepreneur in the world? It's like, oh, now you're competing with like Zuckerberg and Elon Musk or whatnot, right? It's like that's impossible feeling, right? But what would it take to be the number one entrepreneur in this topic or in your current city? Or just let's say you're the best entrepreneur in your own household, right?
Mm.
And that, I mean, that's essentially category design is you focus it until you can claim reasonably that you're the number one. And I think marketers like this category because this concept because it ends up being really powerful. To be number one in something is better than being number two in something bigger. What that means for a writer though is um, uh, I think is about being strategic. Like if as if you're writing to be an entrepreneur and you are promoting a company, then yes, it's all basic marketing concepts. Like write in a way where you're differentiated from what everyone else does. It's like, oh, if you say instead, well, at our company, we do one-on-one meetings in the same way as everyone else, you've achieved nothing. You haven't differentiated yourself. And so, yeah, in that way, strategically, if you're being really strategic about your writing and your time, yeah, you do have to niche down. You do have to specialize. You do have to find a way to be differentiated. I think that stuff comes pretty naturally to entrepreneurs. But that's not the only reason to write. And so there's this whole other, just like, I like to write, I like to share my life, I find it valuable to document my life. And so the thing that we always like try to remind people is by definition, you are an expert in your own life, right? So, I mean, I don't know a lot about, like, I'm not qualified to write restaurant reviews for the New York Times, but I have a pretty strong opinion about restaurants in the Hudson Valley where I am right now, right? And it's like kind of, my experience I guess that is a form of category design, but it just ends up being really part of the power of blogging is that everything you write has two topics, sort of. One is the headline topic, what you're writing about, and the other is the context of who you are. So maybe that headline topic has been covered a million times, but it hasn't been covered by someone like you. And somewhere else is a reader who's like you and likes that topic. And that's like kind of the magic Venn diagram of what makes your writing worthwhile.
You reference blogging. I'm old enough to remember when it started, and we thought it was going to be the death of journalism and everything. It has it. Where do you see blogging continue? What's the vision?
Yeah, we have to re-enable the mainstream of regular people sharing their experiences. And sort of like you, I probably was getting into blogging at a time where I was also connected to professional writing. I wasn't in journalism, but I was working for a tech book publisher
Mm.
with like O'Reilly before you could build any websites, like you needed their books to build, like the whole internet was built off of people that had their books on their desk, right? And because all like Stack Overflow didn't exist yet. And so at that point in time, all of the important tech information was in books and especially in O'Reilly books. But Tim O'Reilly had this really good observation, which maybe he shared publicly, but he definitely shared it at the all hands meetings regularly, which is our books are higher quality than what people are blogging about. I mean, they've been copy edited, they've been tech reviewed, we have a system for fixing bugs in them. They're like, so much time goes into them. But he said, there's two problems. It takes us a year to get a book out, and there's most topics are not big enough to warrant a book. And so the value of user generated content is a great get into all of the creases and crevices. And this is, I think, why I'm so resistant to the idea of kind of professionalizing all user generated content, is because once you go down that path, you stop getting into the crevices. You get a lot more opinion, you get a lot less people that are living, writing about lived experience, right? So I'd rather hear from an entrepreneur who writes twice a year than a former entrepreneur who writes every day, right? Because I know that those 2 posts a year from an entrepreneur are based on something that just happened to them. And if you're a full-time creator, it's always either summary or distant memory. And so that's what is exciting to me, is that if you can draw those experiences out of as many people as possible, then there's just an incredible new amount of information, experience, and wisdom that we could all have access for. This is like, this was the promise of the internet, I thought, information superhighway. And then you realize the information is coming from every single person on the internet. That's a really cool idea. And then it got, I think it's fair to say the internet got warped a little bit. And I want to bring back that, the every person element of it.
Okay. And then, yeah, a final plug. If entrepreneurs and others want to get onto Medium, what's the best way to start?
The one thing that won't be obvious, right? Like, your
Yeah,
people are smart. I don't need it. Like, the URL is Medium. Like, the
let's
one thing
hope.
that won't be obvious is, like, the magic of Medium is publishing for a publication. That's what I mean
Mm,
about not needing to build your audience. There's all of these publications that are looking for entrepreneurs like you to write for them, and they already have an audience. Like, that's part of what we
right.
do to make, your life simpler. Just like Google, search on Medium for publications that fit a topic you want to write about, and many of them will allow you to submit there.
Oh, okay. Great advice. Well, wonderful. Well, thanks for your time, Tony. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Venture Variety Show. Hope you enjoyed that conversation with Tony Stubblebine. If you're watching on YouTube, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share so others can check out the show. You can also find my other podcast on YouTube called The AI Cognitive Shift, which I co-host with AInews.com. If you got feedback or guest suggestions, drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And if you found value in this episode, consider supporting the show so I can keep bringing you more conversations like this one. That's it for now. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time.